Hi, my name's Cyngen, I'm my colleague. Yeah, I'm not normally nervous to share, but I am now. Anyways, I'll go for it anyways. Where to start? Best I'm going to try and do is what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So I'll start from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was always fearful, scared to do anything. Even I remember first time being put into school, I was scared to talk to any kid. I just had that sense, I don't know, that feeling deep inside of me that something was wrong all the time. And as time progressed, I was in the beginning, I guess I was a relatively good kid, well-behaved kid. I think my mom would think otherwise, but things were right, in the beginning. And I realized that there was this hole inside of me that needed to be filled, and I guess it started off before even any substance was picked up. It was, I guess, the affirmation and stuff like that through other people. So I was also bullied as a kid in the beginning, and it happened for a while, to a point where I'd had enough, and I decided to fight back, and I became the bully, because I joined I guess you could say, the cool kids in the school, the rebellious part of the kids, the naughty kids, and that's what I did. I joined them, and I started bullying other kids, just to hide the fact that I was a scared little boy. So that's what I did. I picked on other kids, and I got respect for that, That was my first part of my schooling, and as time progressed, my grades were pretty average in the beginning. Unless I put my mind to something, my grades were actually very good, and if I put my mind to it, and that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted that affirmation, and I wanted to be known as a person not to be messed with. So anyways, I went through school like that, and I tried out for all sports, because I know that was one way to get affirmation, was to be good at sports, but I was never a sports person until I started doing swimming. I was really good at that. I became the best in my school, and things progressed until I never touched alcohol as my first substance. It was something else. I won't mention something you smoke, but anyways. And I tried that for my first time. It was a friend. I'm going to mention it now, but I took it from my older brother, and he didn't know about it, and me and my friend took it, and we didn't know how to do it, and we got the security guard to make it for us and whatever, and we smoked it, and I remember that feeling, those fears and insecurities all left me, and I felt a part of, if you can put it that way, and things just life seemed a lot easier. Reality seemed a lot easier to look at, and as time progressed, I didn't do it often, and then we started doing it more and more, because I realized that when I was sober, those feelings came back, and the only way to block it is if I took that substance. And then not long after that, I was introduced to alcohol as well, and I drank. My first drink was at the age of 14. I drank, and it was with my cousin. I drank with him, and I remember him saying to me when we were drinking, he poured the drink, and I just downed it. I didn't know what was going to happen to me, but I downed it. And he said to me, "You must be careful." And I said to him, "Nah, I don't have to be careful." And I drank more, and I don't remember much of that night. I remember waking up there and being very sick, very ill, and still going to my mom and telling her I don't feel all right. And she shouted at me. She said, "I can smell the alcohol on you." And things, the alcohol and the other substance I was taking got worse and worse over time, until a point where that substance I was taking was laced with something, I can't remember what, and something happened, and I started freaking out. I don't know, and I had to phone my mom, and I had to lie to her also, because I said to her, she had said, what did you have taken? And I said, no, me and a friend had found a cigarette, and we smoked it and on the street, but I think she knew I was talking shit anyways. And we smoked it, and she took me to hospital, and they said it'd been laced with other stuff that I hadn't been taking. And anyways, so I stopped with that substance for a while, and I just drank a lot. And yeah, I remember being banned from our grade 7 farewell because I had brought alcohol to one of the dances they had, and me and my friends had shown up drunk, and we had been banned from that. So we were banned from the grade 7 farewell, so I wasn't allowed at that. I was told that I was also a very aggressive kid in the beginning, but then the principal had told me if I'd been in any more fights, they were going to kick me out of school. So I stopped. I'd somehow learned to adapt and bottle that anger. That's how it changed. So it was from the one extreme to the next. And when I started bottling that stuff up, and as the substance quantity increased, my personality, if you can say that, also started to disintegrate. I was never that happy, joyful kid I was, because I could talk to people, and I was very open to people, but that started to subside a little bit as time progressed, and as the substance progressed as well. And anyways, I went into high school, and I didn't want to be in school. I fought with the teachers. I fought with my mom on a regular basis. I didn't want to go to school, just because I couldn't deal with that feeling inside of me, unless I had a substance in me. And it was a bit difficult to get substance in me when I was at school, because our school was quite vigilant with stuff like that. But as time progressed, I managed to find a way to get the substance in the school. Things also progressed, and as all of this was happening, I can't remember. I think I must have been in grade 8. I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember much of what happened in my past, because I don't know. But anyways, we carry on. Me and my mom and my brother, we were in a house, and in a place that we were staying in, and I remember my brother going to bed and my mom going to bed, and the door had been unlocked, and they had said to me, I was watching TV or something, and they had said to me that I must lock the door before I go to bed, and I said, yeah, no, I will, and I forgot that night to lock the door, and 5 guys came in, and they tied us up and all of that, tied my mom, me and my brother up, they put guns to our heads and all that stuff, and they ended up robbing us. The guy almost assaulted my mother, but somehow I decided to sleep with my mom that night, and I managed to stop the guy from harassing my mom, and I told them to leave and whatever, and but that all happened, and it was a big traumatic incident for me, my mom and my brother and I, and when that happened, my behavior got worse, a lot worse, and I'd blame it on that, I'd blame it on how could it happen to me, how can it happen to my family? We had done nothing wrong and stuff like that, and my behavior had got worse. I'd started bunking school, running away from school, jumping fences, and during this time, I'd picked up my first chemical drug. It was a party drug at the time. I was too scared to take it. I've only taken half of the drug with my friend, and I took it, and nothing happened. And I went home. I was still pissed off because nothing had happened. And I went home to go home and sleep. And as I put my head on the pillow, the drug had kicked in. And we all know what happens after that. So I stayed up the whole night, and that feeling of coming down off that drug, it was weird. So I drank into oblivion to get rid of that feeling, and I drank to a point where, I drank till I was hugging the toilet, and that carried on for a while until I took a harder substance after that for a while, and things spiraled out of control after that, the drugs eventually, I I'm young, you know, and also by the age of 18, 19, the drugs had stopped working. I'd taken quite lots, that it still stopped working. It stopped taking away the fear, because that fear just came back and it amplified. It just got worse. So the next best thing was to self-harm, because I'd always say that physical pain is better than emotional, you know. I'd rather, because that took away that pain for that little bit. So I used to self-mutilate. And it happened for a while, till it got bad enough where my mom, eventually I'd gone to my mom and I'd said, showed her that it's getting bad, you know, and she said she didn't know what to do with me, so she took me to a psychiatrist, because that's what the doctor said, I must go to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist, I'd gone to a psych ward in Durban, and yeah, as he pulled out his pen and paper and he started listening to what I had to say, and explaining how I was feeling and why I was doing what I was doing, and yeah, he diagnosed me bipolar schizophrenia. Apparently it's impossible to have those two, but I had both of them anyways. And yeah, he put me on that medication and I was on it for a while, and yeah, the cutting had stopped. I stopped using other substances for a while when I was on the medication, because I guess the medication was also just another way to stop feeling the way I felt. And I'd taken that substance, and I remember it stopped working for a while as well. Especially the antidepressants that I was on, the doctor had to increase my dosage, and he increased it, and it stopped working. I mean, it was there, so the next best thing was to go back to my street drugs, and I did. And it got worse, and I'd also started taking other prescription painkillers as well, and I got bad with those as well. Those I got very bad with. I started with like 5 a day, and then it ended up being 40 a day. So I was taking all of those at one time, and yeah, the harm I'd done to my mother was unbelievable, my mom and my dad. My mom had plenty nervous breakdowns. She started losing weight, lots of weight because of me. I remember she'd cry, and she'd cry often, and she would say to me, "Why are you doing this?" You know. And at the time, I didn't care. I was more worried about getting the substance that I needed. And yeah, it got bad where I started stealing from her. She still caught me red-handed stealing money out of her purse, and she was blown away. Hey, I pushed her to a point where she had told me she had hated me. My mom has been unconditionally loving through my life. You know, no matter how much stress I put her underneath, she should always be there for me. Until the point where she had her last nervous breakdown. And by this time, I'd been jumping up between my dad and mom in Joburg, because my mom and dad are divorced. When I didn't get what I wanted from my mother, I'd go to my father, and so on and so forth. And that happened for years, you know. And this happened for a while when I was up by my mom the last time, and she'd had her last nervous breakdown that she didn't know what to do with me, you know. So she had to kick me out the house, and she had to go in hospital, you know. And I remember her giving me her last bit of money as my mom's going through all of this, and she still managed to give me money just to make sure that I was safe when I was on my bus back to Joburg, you know, just to make sure that I had some money for rent, or money for food, or place to stay, you know. She still managed to do that. And I'll never forget, she left that night with my aunt to go and drop them off at the hospital, and all this insanity is going on, because I still phoned my dad. He didn't want nothing to do with me. He didn't want me there, because I'd also he'd had enough of me, because I'd also put him under that stress, you know. And when she had left to go to the hospital, I was just explaining the insanity behind all of this. She had given me that money, and I'd blown half that money that night to buy my substance, you know. And I bought it, and I went on the bus, and yeah, I still tried to phone my dad again to get him to get me to stay there, and he didn't want nothing of it, you know. He'd had enough of me. He said, "No, I'm sick of you. You gotta do your own thing. You're not coming to live here by me, because you're a piece of," yeah. he said in plenty times, like I drove my dad to also physically abuse me, where he said he'd never do that to me because his dad abused him. But I drove him to do that. I drove him to hit me. I drove my mom to kick me out of the house where she didn't want to do that, you know. And yeah, I was on that bus and I tried it, and I had nowhere to go, you know. I managed to phone a friend that I'd used substances with, and he said I could go and stay with him in some shitty part of Johannesburg. And I went and stayed there with him, and yeah, I think that was horrible, hey, because my mom knew what I was using the money for, and she'd give it to me, and I'd never knew why she'd give it. Like, I thought she didn't know, but she knew. And like later on, she had told me she knew what she was giving me the money for, but she was just so scared that I would steal from people and be arrested and go to jail or be killed, you know. But she still gave me that money anyways. And yeah, it got to a point where in that house we were staying in, we were only allowed to bath and shower once a week, and I still didn't do it. My hygiene went down the tubes, you know. I'd stopped doing all the necessary things. All I'd cared about was getting drugs and alcohol and just carrying on like a complete muppet, you know. And I remember things stopped working, you know. And I'd taken a month's supply of medication in like 2 weeks. And it all just stopped working. I was taking all of this together, and it just stopped working. And I just remember I hated the way I felt, the people around me. And I remember, and during this time, I said, wow, if God loved me, then he wouldn't have diagnosed me with the disease that I had, this bipolar and schizophrenia. And I didn't have to take this stuff, and I wouldn't feel the way I felt. And I always blamed God, you know. But yet when I was in trouble, I'd always ask for his help. It's weird how it works. And yeah, I remember looking up at the ceiling when I was lying in bed the one day, and I looked up, and I don't know who I was talking to, but I was talking to somebody, and I just screamed. I just remember saying to myself, please, if there is anybody out there, just help me. I'll do anything, you know. I'll do anything just to stop feeling this way and to stop hurting people around me. And yeah, not long after that, my mom eventually gave in, and she said to me, you know, you can come back to her to the South Coast. And I went back up, and she had booked me back in a psych ward, you know. And I remember being in that psych ward. Let me just go back a bit. When she had fetched me off the bus that day when I got back from Joburg, my mom spent her last bit of money just to get me food. By that time, I hadn't eaten in like days and stuff like that. And she used the last money to get me food. And I remember that look in her eyes, you know, like that look that to say like what happened to her son. She even said to me, she doesn't know what happened to me. I look like shit, you know. She doesn't know what happened to her baby boy. But yeah, she booked me into the psych ward again, and I went there. And by this time, they had known I had a substance problem, and I was in the lockup unit at that time. And the only way they could deal with me was by pumping me full of medication. I was there for a month. I only remember being there 3 days. My mom had told me she had come there, but she only told me this but I'll get into that now. And as time that month was up, I remember being fetched by the treatment center. I'll never forget the people I was fetched by, you know. Yeah, they fetched me, and you know, I was still driving up towards the treatment center, and as we were driving through like the Bundus, I was just thinking, where the hell are we going? Is this legit, you know? I thought I was going to, yeah, I don't know what was happening actually. But then we pulled up to this beautiful house, you know, and we went through the gates, and we're still driving up to that driveway. I don't know, when we were driving up that driveway, I just felt the sense of relief, you know, like things could get better, you know. And I remember going in, and yeah, just seeing people happy, you know, and it just felt like there was hope, you know. And as things got, sure, I remember sitting down with Josh being my sponsor, and he, my counselor at the time, and he said to me, like we had gone through many things, and I remember them they took me off my antidepressants immediately. The other medication they had to wean me off because I'd been on them for like 4.5 years. And yeah, as they were weaning me off, I've never been through as bad withdrawals as I'd been through on the medication. You know, I've been through withdrawals of my street drug that I was on, and alcohol and everything, and withdrawals came nothing close to the withdrawals as medication. You know, I remember withdrawing. I remember feeling, it felt like things had been crawling underneath my skin. I wanted to just peel my skin off. It felt horrible. Hey, and yeah, things. I had as they were weaning me off my medication as well. My mood started to come back. You know. It was 5 minutes I was happy, 5 minutes I was sad, and I didn't know how. It was a weird feeling for me. I didn't know why I was feeling like this. I remember sitting down with Josh and saying, "Why am I feeling like this?" And I remember him explaining to me why. You know, it's because I'd used this medication and it just blocked me from feeling anything, and those feelings were starting to come back. So it was normal to feel like that. And yeah, treatment was a roller coaster ride. You know, I don't know. I felt like I felt like maybe it was a test for me, because somehow they always put I guess you could say, the hardest people to deal with in my room for some strange reason. I don't know. I guess I needed that growth. And yeah, but I really enjoyed treatments. I remember doing my steps. I remember writing my steps. At the time when I was doing my step 1 through to like 3 and 4 and all of that, I wrote down a lot of stuff, but I don't remember much what I wrote down because I was still on the medication at the time, because they were still weaning me off it. And yeah, but I think by the time I'd reached step 5 and 6, I'd been completely off the medication, and I've never felt more alive. I felt like a normal human being again. And it turns out I don't have bipolar and schizophrenia. I'm just a garden variety alcoholic, and there's nothing wrong with me. I just couldn't deal with life on life's terms, you know, and way of life, you know, and I had to learn to deal with life on life's terms without substance. And yeah, it was hard. It was difficult, you know. I remember sitting in this group we had in the morning. We called him our spiritual guru, and a lot of the things he said, you know, it sunk in, and I listened, you know. And I remember him saying, was I willing to go to any length? Was I willing to go to any length, you know? And I was, because I remember what I felt like when I was in Joburg that time, and I didn't want that anymore. And I had to change. I had to change my old behavior. I had to change completely from who I used to be like. And I was willing to do that, you know. I was willing to let go of who I thought I was, you know, and start afresh, you know, turn over a new leaf. And yeah, things got better, you know. And I was in treatment for, I think, 6.5 months, and it was really cool. Hey, we did plays and stuff like that, and it was nice, you know. It was nice to get out of myself to do something for somebody else, and because I was never like that, you know. I started becoming very closed off. I didn't like talking to people and stuff like that, and to get out of myself, I had to do that, you know. And it was nice, you know, because I started being me again, the person I was before I picked up substance and stuff like that. And it was really cool. And then I went to the halfway house, and also that was a journey. The guys there gave me a lot of growth, and I gave them a lot of growth as well, I'm sure. And I'm sure I gave Josh also a lot of growth. I'm sure I was a bit of a pain in the ass, but yeah, things progressed. And what I realized today is that I'd taken so much. All I did was take, and all I worried about was self, you know. I cared about myself only. I didn't give a shit about anybody else. And that was the difference now. I had to change that around, you know. I have to put everybody else's needs ahead of mine, because that's all I've done for the 24 years of my life, was worry about myself, and that just caused havoc in my life, you know. And it was about making it about other people. And, you know, it was a big change, and I enjoyed it, you know. The counselors would speak often about if they could give us a taste of what recovery is like, you know, it's amazing, you know. And I'm starting to get, you know, a little bit of it. I'm still new. I'm still a baby in recovery, and yeah, I'm starting to get those tastes, you know, and it's amazing, you know. I like it, and I don't want to go back to who I used to be, and I don't want to pick up substance, but I know it's a daily reprieve. It's a just for today program, and I can do it just for today, you know. And tomorrow, if I do tomorrow what I did today, I'll be alright. And yeah, it's been amazing. My relationships with my families are starting to build again. People are starting to trust me. My mom's starting to trust me again. Me and my brother are getting along, and yeah, just things are starting to go well. The month I've been up there living, and I got my own place. It's another thing, you know. I've never been able to have my own place, and now I've got my own place. I'm living in my own flat, you know, and I've never had that because I've always thrown my life away, and no one's trusted me with anything. And I've got my life back, you know. I'm happy, not all the time, but I know what to do to change that, you know. And I don't let my moods affect everyone around me. I try and make a difference, you know. And people speak often about also that feeling of substance. I know what it feels like to take a substance, and I know what it feels like to help somebody. And that feeling beats the feeling of substance hands down, you know, to help somebody else, to see that they have that hope in their eyes, you know, that things will get better. And they do, you know, they do get better. I thought there was no hope for me, and there is hope now, as long as I'm following this way, and as long as I've got a relationship with God, I've got a relationship with my sponsor, and I just keep doing what I need to do, I know I'll be alright. And yeah, I got a lot of gratitude towards the treatment center I was in. I'm glad I went to that treatment center because I've seen people come from other treatment centers and stuff like that. I'm just so glad my mom put me there, because I wouldn't. Yeah, that treatment center taught me a lot, as well as my counselor who showed me a lot, showed me the way. Also, just showed me that I can be a better person, you know. And yeah, there is hope, and yeah, I look forward to a future in recovery, you know. I know I can't project and stuff like that, but you know, I have hope. That's all I can say is I've got hope, and I know, yeah, there's hope. So I've hit a blank. But yeah, all I can say is that if you guys feel like it's getting difficult, anybody new in treatment or new in the rooms, if you feel like it's getting difficult and it feels like that there's it's not getting any better, it is. And when they say don't leave until the miracle happens, don't, because there is a miracle, and things do happen, you know. So yeah, thanks for everyone coming to listen to my share, and I hope someone got something out of it. So yeah, thanks for letting me share.